Minha parada agora é o centro histórico da cidade de Parma. Você vê aqui a catedral, o seu campanário, né, a sua torre, e o batistério, que é um dos maiores que eu já vi até hoje. E quando a gente fala a palavra Parma, o que nos vem à mente? Presunto de Parma. Então bora lá fazer essa degustação. Então, é hora de deixar a cidade de Parma e seguir em direção a Langhirano, a terra do presunto Parma, onde nós vamos conhecer o salumifício Conti e saber toda a história dessa iguaria italiana.
Conti brothers actually used to be farmers, but in winter, when the cold weather permitted, they started to work on the legs. In fact, they went to work in some historic ham factories in the village of Langhirano because they needed to learn this art. And once they learned it, they decided to become prosciutto makers, but in particular prosciutto of Parma.
Okay.
Along with Parma ham, the company also cures some crudo nazionale, so some legs that are never going to be fire branded with the crown and logo Parma, but also culata and fiocco, two different products that we will see better upstairs. So, from 1968 to today, the family continues producing Parma ham legs, following the regulation from the Consortium of Prosciutto di Parma, because Parma ham, it's a PDO product, protected origin domination, and we have this government called Consortium of Prosciutto di Parma that regulate everything from the beginning. As you may already know, they are allowed to only use one ingredient, which is Mediterranean sea salt. That's all.
Okay.
But they start from the pig itself.
Okay.
So only 3 breeds of pigs are allowed to be used, only the best one. We use Duroc, Londres, and Large White. The pigs must be born and raised in Italy in only a restricted area. We have only 10 regions from north to central Italy. Also in the farms, from many years now, the pigs follow a very strict diet, so they can only be fed with cereal, a mix of cereal, any kind of cereal, along with the serum that derive from the Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, because what the pig eat affects the taste of the meat, of course. Also, in order to be slaughtered, the pigs must reach the age of 9 months and to weigh minimum 110 kilos. So big pigs in order to have big legs. This company is not a farm or a slaughterhouse. They actually only buy, they purchase the 2 back legs that they need in order to produce Parma. So when we have the legs in the company, the workers proceed to do a selection of the legs. Legs are going to be selected based on aesthetic and weight. The workers proceed to do some cuts on each leg in order to give it the round shape and to give it a flat surface so they can apply Mediterranean sea salt. Then each fresh leg is going to be weighed. So they are looking from minimum 13 to maximum 17 kilos for a fresh raw leg. And also here at the selection, on each Parma ham leg, the workers are going to apply a metal seal. This metal seal here, you can see the small one, we will have here the year and the month of the start production. In this way, we are able to start counting the minimum 14 months that we need in order to have a Parma ham. Although 14 months is the minimum time, the company actually likes to cure legs for minimum 18, mostly 24 24, but also some 13 to 36 months. So to go a little bit longer in order to have a more intense and strong flavor and perfume and taste.
Georgia, we are seeing now the fresh leg.
Exactly.
Okay, but this one is not Parma.
No, this is a Crudo Nazionale, the generic ham that the company also cure. It's a different pig and it's a little bit different process.
Okay.
Because this one, it's not a PDO product, so it's not regulated by the consortium. The salting step, this is the next process, which is applying the salt. And before we apply the salt, you will see we have to give a nice massage to the legs to tender the muscle a little bit. This is going to permit a better absorption of the salt. Then proceed to clean the skin with a big machine, a scrubbing machine. And finally, salt can be applied. As you can see, the machine applies a fixed amount of salt on each leg, but because each product, each leg, it's a little bit different in weight and aesthetic, we need a person with experience. In this case, we have Mariangela, the owner of the company, that is the salt master. As you can see, he's going to apply more salt, spread it in the correct way and in the critical points. To keep the legs in a refrigerated room for approximately 5 to 7 days. In here the temperature is between 0 and 3 degrees, but we use very high humidity. It's actually at 85%. This high humidity is going to help the salt dissolve very, very quickly to permit to be absorbed to the heart of the meat, starting to lose water and of course stopping and preventing bacteria.
Ah, já estão todos embaladinhos aqui, gente, ó. Tá frio aqui dentro.
So as you can see in this, the first refrigerated rooms, we have different products. The water on the floor, it's mostly water that the legs, the products already start to lose. The one in the nest, it's a different product, it's called culata.
Então é interessante, a gente entrou aqui e parece que tudo é presunto Parma, mas não, o Crudo Nazionale ainda está aqui. E ela está me explicando que essa peça, geralmente, ela é muito maior que a peça do Parma, porque não há uma regulamentação para fazer esse presunto. Por isso que aqui tudo bem, mas o Parma não. Como ela disse, tem que ser de 13 até 17 quilos.
After 5 to 7 days, the workers are going to repeat the process. So we call this the second salt. Basically, we are going to do a nice massage again, good scrub to the skin, and the salt is going to be applied, this time only manually, so not with the machine. It's just a thin layer of salt and is going to remain applied for another 35 days in a different refrigerated room. Temperature between 3 and 4 degrees, but we lower the humidity at about 70%, and we also start to add circulated air, so ventilation. Ventilation is actually going to fasten the drying process.
Olha só, a gente viu ali o Crudo Nazionale, que é o presunto normal, mas esse aqui não, gente. A gente está no paraíso agora. Esse aqui é o Parma. E como é que eu sei? Pelo formato e também, principalmente, pelo selinho que ele carrega aqui, ó. Tem que ter esse selinho de certificação para dizer que realmente esse é um presunto Parma.
After 4 months in what we call the cold area, the legs are going to lose approximately 8%, which is mostly water. We don't have the risk of bacteria growing and working inside, so we are ready to move the legs to a warmer temperature. In fact, here the smell, the perfume, it's already very different, very much intense and strong. But before we move the legs, we will have to trim them. So with the trimming, we are going to remove the meat in excess, some cracks and holes that start to create. And we also are going to give a cut to the hip bone, just to flatten it at the level of the meat. We proceed then to wash the legs, just to make sure that any kind of impurity, traces of salt is finally removed. Because once we move the legs here to this warmer temperature, in fact we have between 14 to 16 degrees, we allow the legs to start the maturing and aging process. This is a natural process and no manual or mechanical step is involved. A very, very important thing that we must do in the pre-aging rooms is to open the windows. The company still has these big windows and they have to open it anytime they have the possibility, because we have the perfect climatic condition. So mostly they do that in spring, but even now in winter or summer, whenever they have the same temperature and the dry air outside, they open the windows so the legs can absorb the good aromas, the good perfumes, and also bacteria, organisms that only grow in these particular hills. We are very close to the Ligure Sea, so over the hills we have the sea, and the sea breeze and this dry air, it's the perfect climatic condition for the drying process. Because the consortium also regulates the weight for the fresh raw leg, with smaller and bigger legs, this company decided to cure culata and fiocco. So the slaughterhouses are going to separate this leg, so cut it in half, removing the bone, and send here in the company 2 different muscles. So we will have the front muscle, which is the smaller one, and with this one they cure fiocco. And with the bigger muscle, the back muscle of the leg, they cure culata. Culata and fiocco are not PDO products, so they are not regulated by any government or consortium. So each company is allowed to use a different recipe. Conti company likes to add to Mediterranean sea salt, also garlic, rosemary and white pepper, just to have something different, a different flavor and taste.
Uma dúvida é porque o fioco e a culata estão embalados dessas redinhas aqui. É porque eles não têm mais osso, então não tem como segurar, eles ficam todos aqui presos dessa maneira. O que a Jorge estava me explicando é que não importa qual seja, o fioco, a culata ou o crudo que a gente tem aqui, ó, o crudo e até o Parma mesmo, todos eles passam pelo mesmo processo que a gente está vendo. Salgar, depois passar aqui e colocar gordura, enfim, só muda o produto, mas o processo sempre é o mesmo.
Once the grease is applied, each leg is going to be hung up manually on the wooden racks. And they are going to remain here for another 7 months minimum in order to reach the minimum time that is 14 months. After 14 months, an inspector can be sent by the consortium of Prosciutto di Parma in order to test the legs. So he's going to test the legs using this particular tool that we call the needle, because it looks a little bit like a needle. This needle, it's made from a horse's tendine and was discovered by Case many years now, and basically has some pores inside, and these pores permit to absorb perfumes, but for a very short amount of time. In this way, we don't have the risk to transfer the perfume from a leg to another leg. Of course, no need to wash the needle between tests. And it's the only product that is not going to destroy the texture of the leg, the muscle. Normally longer and sharper, and this is a smell test. So he's going to pinch the legs in 5 different and critical points. And based on the smell, based on the texture of the muscle, the inspector is the one that must give the permission, must give the okay, to finally firebrand the legs with the crown and logo Parma.
Essa peça interessantíssima, né? Que vem do cavalo, da natureza. E é muito difícil de encontrá-la hoje em dia. Já tentaram colocar plástico, metais, mas diz que não funciona a natureza, né, trabalhando com a natureza. E eu falei para ela, se por acaso ele colocar isso aqui e o cheiro não for bom, o que faz com a peça? Então, assim, tipo, vende como segunda qualidade, coisa assim. Ela falou, impossível, porque se o cheiro é ruim, a peça toda vai estar ruim, então é vendida a fábricas que fazem fertilizantes. Então, sem condições de vender esse produto para que seja consumido pela sociedade. Que aula nós tivemos com a Georgia, e eu amo aprender como a comida chega até a nossa mesa. Mas agora é hora da melhor parte. E como eu sempre digo, eu vou nadar de braçada. Michaela, thank you so much to invite us to be here. It's a pleasure to know your factory.
My pleasure.
It's your family factory, right?
Yes, this is a family business. The most part of the factories are family-run company because we make traditional products. So you just don't need the job, you need the passion to do it. So you learn from your grandparents and your ancestors how to relate the product to the territory, the raw ingredients and everything. So that's why it's basically families doing that.
This is in Europe is very common to have a family business.
Yes.
And sometimes in Brazil, the people looking for big companies will be good. And I say, okay, big companies can be modern, but the small ones, there is one thing that is most important that you said is the heart.
Yes,
I saw your mother. For your mother, right?
Yes.
Putting the salt.
Yes. So
this is, for me, is the deal. You know, that's the thing, good thing to be in a place like this.
Yes.
So I always say to them to be in a small place, so if family business are, so it's much better. But let me know something. We talk a little bit with Georgia about these 3 kinds of prosciutto. I can call prosciutto also the fiocco.
Yes, that's the one we have on the left side. So prosciutto di Parma is the complete name. This is a 24 months old prosciutto. With the long aging, you appreciate different flavor and aromas that become more rich and intense. The minimum is 14 months. Then the choice of the aging is just personal taste.
Okay.
Then right side top of the plate we have the culata, which is just the back muscle of the leg. So it gets different taste and flavor because of the different size and the different amount of fat. And instead right bottom we have the fiocco, which is the front muscle of the leg. And again with different size, little amount of fat, we change again the flavor.
We can find the fiocco and culata in Brazil.
No, I don't think. These are very modern products, let's say. These are just the result of saving the overweight legs. So usually we trimmed the meat of the overweight legs because they weren't good to make prosciutto di Parma. Then some factories decided to take out some different products to save, let's say, those legs.
So you don't lose any part from the leg.
Yes, so we take advantage of the recipe of prosciutto di Parma and we create some different similar products.
Okay, it's good conversation, but I like to taste it. So they have a breadstick, right?
Yes.
It's so popular to do like this, right?
It's typical wrapping the prosciutto over a breadstick.
Okay, I can do it also fiocco and also with culata.
The same.
So what do you recommend to start? Fiocco or culata?
Maybe prosciutto.
Prosciutto?
Yes.
Yes.
The sweetest. Then culata and last fiocco.
Okay.
But then it depends on your personal taste. So if you want to have the strongest first, but then it covers a bit the sweetest flavor of the others. Okay.
Actually, I'm thinking about this because I like to save the best for last, you know.
Yes. It's just personal
Look
choice.
the difference.
I'm a professional.
Yes. Okay, try it.
Okay.
I love prosciutto.
So usually we also smell prosciutto before we taste it because the smelling is part of the flavor. Okay.
It's very good. I was talking, it's not too much, I ate some other prosciuttos around the world, even from Italy, but salty. These ones, no.
Prosciutto should never be salty. Salty is always a defect, okay? Actually, it's difficult to control the amount of salt in the prosciutto because it's made with salt. So it's a very delicate balance with the temperature and the humidity of the rooms in which we keep the prosciutto. And so then we can obtain a good result even if we use salt.
Okay. Now culata and then let's
try the new
Let's see if I can do better now. No
let's
way.
see if you can notice a difference in the taste. So culata is similar to prosciutto because sweet and tender thanks to the good amount of fat, but you will notice is anyway a bit more dried in the consistency.
Okay. It's good too. But the prosciutto is well better.
Yes, it's different. So with the same recipe, you obtain 3 totally different products.
And then culata now.
Fiocco.
Fiocco now.
This is much more dried and also much more tasty.
Okay.
More intense.
Yes.
You can notice.
I need to send this to Brazil.
That would be great.
I like it. It's very good.
But I have to say that these are very delicate products. So they are, let's say, affected by the climate of one area or the other. So you will never find the same taste and aroma in another country. That's a pity because you cannot appreciate at its best prosciutto, but you can appreciate how natural it is. So it changes according to the climate around.
Okay. The price between them is almost the same or no, is the big difference?
Well, prosciutto is the most expensive. Culata has a similar price because it is supposed to be a very good cut of meat, as you have no waste and a beautiful round slice from beginning to end. Fiocco is much cheaper.
Ok. A Micaela falou que o tour aqui é em italiano e em inglês, mas eu tenho uma boa notícia para você, que é a nossa guia Ana, que fala português, vive aqui na Itália há muitos anos, já tem feito, me ajudou praticamente em tudo aqui, montou tudo para mim, então eu tenho certeza que vai aproveitar bastante o tour com ela por aqui. Finalmente, da maneira certa, eu consegui enrolar o presunto no palito. Micaela, grazie mille, grazie
Thank
mille,
you.
grazie mille, mille, mille.
Grazie mille.
E eu espero que você tenha gostado desse giro gastronômico aqui pela Itália. Se você gostou, deixa sua curtida, seu comentário, compartilha o vídeo com seus amigos, isso nos ajuda muito ao canal ir pra frente. Então, te espero no meu próximo programa, porque afinal de contas, dentro de nós sempre vai existir um louco por viagens.